Yo, 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 yo. Check one, two. Check one, two. Check one, two. Just doing a test run. Yo, what up, Lord AAA? Yeah, I see you. Just doing a audio check real quick. About to do a interview with a Detroit legend. Uh, what up, Gracie? I had no idea you cannot do IG Live from your computer. So I had to charge my phone for the last 30 minutes preparing to do an interview with a Detroit legend. You'll find out in a minute, cause I'm just waiting for him to appear. Uh, yeah. Well, my guest, he is a Detroit legend, and he is produced for Eminem, for Royce the 5'9". As a matter of fact, he's joined. Let me see if I can pull him up. Yo, what up, Hush?
My guy, what's happening?
Yo, man, it's a pleasure to talk to you, man. Been a long time fan.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that. Pleasure's all mine.
Hell yeah. Well, how you doing?
I'm good, man. Feeling good. Just been working all day, just pushing these all these posts out, letting people know what's going on with me and my musical world lately. It's been a lot.
Yeah, I'm really loving the song "People."
Thank you, man. Yeah, that's it's a banger for sure, man. We kind of knew it once we did it that it was gonna get a lot of great responses.
Matter of fact, like I recognized the sample immediately. I'm a big Graham Central Station fan.
Really?
Oh yeah, like
Not that
I
many
love.
people caught that.
Yo, I'm a longtime Larry Graham fan.
Wow, yeah, Larry Graham, man, he's one of the greatest of all time, one of the great bass players of all time, bro.
He changed music 3 times over, man.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, as soon as I heard that vocal chant of "People,"
Yep.
I knew where the direction was going,
Yeah,
and but in the live instrumentation, it really caught my attention immediately because the music is so visceral, along with your lyricism and along with Bobby J.
yeah, yeah. You know
How,
what? That track came together kind of crazy. I had already had that track done, um, because I've been a big fan lately of a lot of the lo-fi sound, and but then I started hearing some, like just some live instrumentation on a lot of tracks. And I just started messing around with some drums and whatever. And then just that sample came across me. Just I don't even know how I found that sample, but it hit me, and I was like, wow, this would be amazing if I could put this together. And I kind of like put it together, messed with it for like a couple days, and then I remember sending it to Bobby, my boy Bobby J from Rockaway. I remember sending it to him, and then we kind of just sat on it for a minute, and then Bobby had came to Detroit, and we were working on something else, and then at the very end of the session, we only had maybe, I think we had just got done with the session, actually. We probably only had like a half hour left or whatever. And Bobby's like, what else you got? And I was like, well, let me go through the arsenal, and pulled out People. And Bobby just walked around kind of just doing that. And he was like, let me get in the booth. Cool. I dumped it real quick for a 2-track. And Bobby just in one take obliterated it. And I was like, oh my God. So like Bobby's been a big inspiration for me. I mean, you know, I've been around for a long time, but trying to keep up, in that lyrical world that I live in, you know, I'm a writer, so I like to sit down and really pen my stuff out and take my time and craft my verses or whatever. And Bobby's been pushing my pen. And I was like, well, I guess I got to do something now. So I sat down, came up with like the first 4 lines or whatever, and then came up with the whole baby mama scheme, and then kind of just pieced it all together. And about a half hour, I had mine done, jumped in the booth. We went over to studio time and knocked it out, and then that was it. And then I think it was maybe a couple of weeks later, after we had kind of got like a mix on it, Bobby was like, Daru Jones, we should have him lay live drums on top of it, because, you know, you already have the live drum, the live instrumentation in it already. Have him come in and play on it, because Bobby and him had just did a full breakbeat album. Like, I forget how many songs came out on Fat Beats, called One Mic and a Drum. And it was just Bobby spitting over Daru's drum breaks. And Daru, there's a connection here because Daru's from Detroit. So here's Daru working with my boy from Queens, New York. And then Bobby mentions his name, and then Daru knows who I am. So then he kind of like, we kind of just put it all together in the pot. And Daru, he stays in Nashville, but he came to Detroit to work on some other stuff and jumped in the studio. And he hopped on behind that set. And man, honestly, like the minute it was done, we all just were like, oh, this thing's out of here. This is one of those joints that just, resonates. It's a different type of track, man. It moves. It's not like I call it like a freight train running. It gets going, man. And like, if you can catch that flow and whatever and ride with that beat, you'll have a good time on it. And we really did our thing, and I'm very proud of it.
Did Daru's drumming, like when he switched tempos, did it inspire you to go at different speeds as well?
No, because what had happened was we gave Daru the track as is, and just said, and my track, it had cymbals, and stuff on it, but it didn't have that sound. It had the live sound, like, but it just didn't have that feel. So Daru came on and he played my 8-bar loop, I think it was, that I had played. He played on top of that, and there was just little different spots that, but he was accenting on the hats and and on the cymbals and whatever. And, and my track didn't have toms in it. So, he was throwing, little tom shots in it. But really, it really came together when he finished the whole track. We had him play the whole track several times. And once it was done, I have an incredible engineer by the name of Maestro, Chafin Williams here. He has his own little repertoire. He was Royce the 5'9's like music director for some shows. He was, he played for D12. and now he owns his own studio. Um, he recorded and mixed it and everything, but the arrangement was already there from me producing it. What he did is, he just went in and tightened up the drums. And once he, got the edits down and tightened it up, and it came back, everything lined up with Daru, then me, like the hats, the cymbals, and Daru and the toms and whatever, and then my, kicks and snares, just laying underneath that. Man, it was incredible. Like I've done live instrumentation before, but never had it layered like that before. So it was that, it was that fat and crispy. And so now I think, as a producer, you go through these, these changes through time in your production style, and you learn this kind of stuff as you go. And so having Daru actually do that on this track, like, changed the game for me. So I was like, yeah, I'm definitely gonna, I'm definitely gonna start doing that more and more often.
Because when I heard it, I got some great headphones, and the separation of tracks where you can hear each musical instrument, the nuances, that ring out. They're so audible that it feels like you're in the session itself, and to me, that's why I like this sound.
Yeah, you know what it is? I credit Maestro for that, because Maestro is a full musician who came from the school of being in a band, playing in church and all that. So he understands the instrumentation of putting a track together, like almost like, where the bass player would be set up at, where the drums would be set up at, where the keys would be set up at. So when he's doing the full mix of the track, he is cognizant of that. So he understands how to put that in a certain way. And then on top of that, once we're done with that, sending it to, to be mastered. And I've got a guy that, I've known for like 30 years, who mastered it, and he did an incredible job on the mastering of it. So, and he understands that as well. So, I credit them more than it ain't. I take no credit in that, man. Maestro is this whole album that Bobby and I have been working on, we did the whole album with Maestro. This is my first time working with him. Long-time friend, long-time fan, long-time, in the community here in Detroit, because he's done a lot of stuff here. He's worked with everybody from Royce to D12 to Marv One to Guilty Simpson to Rose Spit, like, to everybody. But this is my first time working with him. So, I credit him for all of that. He did a great job.
And the song Sometimes,
Yeah.
that really, when you said Jay Dilla was our innovation,
Yeah.
and flattery is overrated,
Yeah.
and I love that line because I'm from Detroit.
Yeah.
I'm born and raised, and I saw just how much he changed the expectations of Detroit artists from the '90s on up, and uh, I see, Jay Dilla's spirit is everywhere, and just but song is very uh, it's very contemplative, and it just sometimes I'll listen to it, and I just think of downtown Detroit, the Riverwalk, or
Oh, for sure.
I can lose myself, just thinking about when I was working at Joe Louis Arena, and getting off at 1 a.m. and just going through Hart Plaza, going through the Millender Center, just trying to get home, and to me, that's the real beauty of the song, is that it allows you to kind of reminisce,
Yeah. That it's crazy because the person who produced it, he goes by the name of DL Jones. He Long time. Like again, another friend of mine. He's actually my best friend, godfather to his daughter. We've known each other for 30 years. He was the first person as an artist. Actually, he was an artist in a group called Sleepy Hollow here that that I had ever like heard, like actually like well, I shouldn't say heard, but actually like had met on a level of like, you know, walked out of a record store. He's, you know, playing some music in a car, and I was like, "What's that?" And then, you know, we're young, and he's like, "Oh, that's my stuff." And then, you know, he's like, "Get in, I'll play it for you." You know, like nobody, I had never experienced anything like that. Throughout the years, when I started to do it professionally, he was already there. He was engineering sessions for people, and one of the major sessions that he recorded and engineered was the Fantastic Sessions for Slum Village.
Mm.
So, you know, I remember hearing Look of Love, you know, like for the first time, like that after it had been like I remember watching the intro of Look of Love where they do the live set. That actually, you know, I was there for that. I saw that visually. But then
Mm.
to hear the finished product, you know, him like, yo, you got to hear this Slum Village joint that I did. So we were always surrounded by Dilla in some way. And Dilla, it's funny because when I was a little kid, I grew up in Conant Gardens. I grew up in Conant Gardens until about seventh grade or eighth grade. When I was a little kid, I didn't know Jay Dilla, but I knew James. James and Tracy, T3, we all played together. We all played baseball together. We all played basketball together, like in my backyard. But I didn't know them as Jay Dilla or Tracy. And I didn't find out about that till we were already successful. That, yo, we were all
Wow.
little kids playing together as little kids. So Dilla's been around my life in some way, to the point of even like we did one show together. And then it was 97, I believe. We did one show together, 97 or 96. We did one show together. It was my group, The Ruckus, Slum Village, Eminem, Bizarre, and it was a couple other groups. But, 5 Ella, which was Proof, Mud, and Thyme. And then a couple years later, I'm at Winter Music Conference, and I bump into Dilla in Miami, and he's like, "What you doing, Hush?" And I'm like, "Just walking the strip. Like, you know, we just came out of this seminar over here, blah, blah." He's like, "Yo, come over to this club. Like, you know, us and Fat Cat and Bahama Diaz performing." He's like, "I got you. Come on." I'm like, "All right." So we roll over there, you know, and you just get to be around this guy. But see, I never got to watch him produce, but just, you know, like it was normal in our scene because I'm around 50 or 60 other rappers and DJs, and we are our own support system. So we are, you know, supporting each other. We had no fans like that. Slum Village, even like they didn't have fans. Other rappers supported them. We all just were there. We would show up to each other's shows. We would see each other. We put on a show, invite other people to come on the bill. Like we just were always pushing each other up in the 90s. So St. Andrews played the big part of that for all of us because we had Friday night was 3 floors of fun. And on the middle floor at St. Andrews was DJ House Shoes playing nothing but, you know, great, and I want to use that word emphatically, like great hip hop. No whack stuff allowed. So, you know, you heard everything. And occasionally you might be in there one day and Dilla will walk in with a CD player or a DAT machine and play a track that he just made at his house. Play it, get the react, see what reaction it gives him. Never play it again. Once it's done, unplug everything and leave. You would see stuff like that. So it was when you're at St. Andrews, you had all these moments of, you know, seeing, you know, Eminem's record get played for the first time. Like you know, my group performing, or whoever it may be. You know, like we used to hang out with the Roots before the Roots even were anybody. They would just come through and play, and we would take Questlove to Sweetwater across the street, hang out with him on the stoop. So sometimes it's reminiscent of that. And the guy who produced that, G.L. Jones, I had never got a beat from him, ever. My whole career. We've always just stayed friends. I always used to tell him, like, yo, if I get a beat from you and whatever, it's because it's business. We have a personal relationship. And I never got a beat from him. And I used to tell him, like, some of his production, I didn't like his snares and stuff like that. So I kind of made excuses for a lot of things so that I didn't get any music from him, and we didn't do any music business, because you know this as well as I do. You know, this music business will separate a lot of people. And so he gave me this beat one day, and we were already done with the album. And he plays this for me, and I was like, yo. And instantly, in my brain, just the way you thought, the same way. The same thing you thought is the exact same thing I thought. It was so reminiscent of a Friday night, downtown Detroit, going to maybe Mediterranean or Lafayette, Coney Island, walking around, maybe jumping on a people mover, walking through Hart Plaza. It just gave me that same feel, them same memories of that whole time, that whole 90s hip hop era that I was birthed in and grew up in and was cultivated in by greats, and being around them and watching what they did and being inspired. And instantly I was like, yo, my man DL recorded the first Fantastic. He grew up in Hamtramck, which was near Coney Gardens. I grew up in Coney Gardens I grew up with Dilla as a little kid. Then we ended up being friends as adults, you know, in this music game. It's only right that I pay homage to this man, because a lot of people in Detroit, they'll give it up. No question. Dilla is, you know, you'll hear many people in Detroit. Dilla's a genius. Dilla is a legend. Dilla is the greatest hip hop producer of all time. But it's very rare that people put it on the paper. You know, they say it, you know, but the people you hear about it that'll say it, you know, obviously the Slum Village camp, right? You'll hear Elzai speak about it. He still speaks about it, you know, on certain songs. But nobody really outside that camp is really putting those words into perspective. So I wanted to put together just one long verse in that 90s way that give you that same feel that we had in the 90s. When you hear it, you're like, oh, that's kind of like a 90s flow. But then the words take you to where you were thinking, like take you back to those days and whatever. Then when I say at the end, Jay Dilla was our innovation, you think about that word, innovate. He was an innovator. He's very inspirational, but he was our innovator, right? So this is a man that created for us those little moments of not quantizing a beat, so that you catch that feel like he's playing it, but he's catching that feel like a jazz drummer. Mm-hmm. Those bass sounds, that boo, ba-doo, ba-doo. Nobody was doing that. They were long bass lines all the time, like boo, boo, boo. You know what I mean? He was doing all that little staccato bass lines with that real lo-fi bass. You wouldn't hear an 808 on a Dilla track, you know, but he would take that jazz, that fretless bass, slow it, like trim it and turn it into, you know, just a little boop, and then he would play it out. You never really heard tracks like that. So that's innovative. Then this is a man who, I mean, he could spit. Let's keep it real. Dilla could spit. Not only could he produce, but he could spit. And the stuff that he was, you know, he could give somebody a track, right, that fits the form of whatever was going on in those years, whatever. Like he could give you a hieroglyphics type track. He could give you a Far Side type track. But then when you hear a Slum Village track, you're like, damn, like he's taking these wild samples and doing like, he really was an innovator. And when I say flattery is getting overrated, it's people that's flattering. Some people are trying to flatter with compliments when in actuality it's making up for the thievery of the style. So they think like that it's justified. Let me flatter, let me flatter, with compliments. Oh, Dilla inspired me, and Dilla did this, and oh, Dilla, like my life changed because of Dilla. People will say that and then go and make a track that sounds just like Dilla. Now I get there's inspiration, but it depends on how they are as a creative, right? It's different when you're trying to be creative and using that inspiration to create something that you create into your own. But when you're just duplicating a sound and basically just stealing it, why? Because you know that, oh, well, somebody's going to like it because it sounds like a Dilla track. That flattery is overrated to me. Like, I don't like to hear that from people. You know what I mean? And if you're from Detroit, it's easy to spot that. It's easy to hear that and know, oh, well, I get what this dude's trying to do, or this group's trying to do. So, that sound and, and all that is just, that's what that is. Like when it's different, like, like let's give you an example. Like, so my flow is like that 90s flow. That's to put you into a world. That's to take you into that space on purpose. So I'm creating that. I'm recreating that to give you that, to bring you into that. But somebody's like, yo, Eric Sermon got rich off of doing this, so I'm gonna make an Eric Sermon beat the same way he does, and I'm gonna take these, guitar sounds, and I'm gonna take that same, that same type of P-funk loop, Ain't nobody checking for that, man.
Yeah, and when you think about it, like Jay Dilla, he put the 10,000 hours developing his sound. So when you rip it off, all you're doing is just stealing his ideas and stealing from his creativity. Like he should be recognized for his accomplishments. Like, do something on your own merit. You know?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, you're taking 20 minutes out of your time to, steal from somebody who, like you said, put in the 10,000 hours. That 5 years is real. That's real hard work. And people don't know what 10,000 hours equals. It's about 5 years. If you really go at it hard for 5 years, and that's all your life is, that's real. You can make it happen. You definitely can manifest that. And I'm a product of that. I was in the scene from 96, and I didn't get my record deal with Geffen Records until 2003. But I had other record deals in that little time, little independent deals here and there. But, that was from constant work, being in that basement, trying to create a sound for my group, trying to, experiment with flows and different types of things. And, and then I found my niche on my own. But, but now here we are, it's 2022. I'm still doing it. I'm still trying to keep up at the pace of these guys out here. And Bobby being such a great up and coming rapper in Queens, Far Rockaway is very, like I said, that's where the inspiration comes from. Like, yo, this kid is really doing it. Like, he's the one, he puts the battery in my back. Like, yo, man, like, I hear his stuff and I'm like, dang, when you're writing as a group, somebody's going to feed off the other one, and a lot of the times it's like, Bobby's just like there, man. Like I hear them be like, damn, like I gotta keep up with this. Like I used to call him and tell him like, man, why you do that to me, bro? Like why you hit me with the syllables and the metaphors and the punchlines like that, man? Now you gonna make me really like. He's like, what, man? Like, come on, man, let's go. But then I come with a joint like sometimes. It doesn't always have to be, that those syllables and punchlines and metaphors. Sometimes, you know, it's the feel, it's the story, you know, and and the fact that a song can put you in a place, in a capacity that makes you think or reminisce. Like, to me, that's a good hip hop song.
And also, I think also just understand if you're from Detroit and you understand neighborhoods, then that also you also have a greater appreciation for Jay Dilla. Like I grew up on the West Side, you know, so you know, between I lived a couple blocks off of Claremont and Linwood, you
Okay.
know, so that neighborhood is different, you know, from the
Oh,
East Side.
no question. See, I'm an East Sider all day, but I moved to like Grand River and Lasher for like 3 years. And
Yeah,
Bugs lived with me over there. So like, and Bugs would like, you know, he was kind of like schooling me to the West Side. I had no clue, you know, and I had to understand how neighborhoods worked over there, you know, and it gave me and it's crazy because it gave me a better understanding of how the city works, you know,
yeah,
between East Side and West Side, you know. But I'm from 7 Mile and Gratiot, and there's just nothing but killers over there. But then where I was at, it was like a fashion show on the West Side. Like it's just,
yeah,
you know what I mean? That's the way I looked at it. Like it was just like it's totally two different worlds. But you know, the dude that kills you on the East Side, he's gonna look like a killer. The dude on the West Side, he's gonna be gaitered up and in some slacks and might slit your throat. Like you see it, it's
real
crazy.
slick talker.
Right, real slick. Yeah, West Side people are slick talkers, man. Crazy.
Yeah, my granddad lived on Mack and Holcomb near a, near a Cadillac
Yep.
in between. That's a rough neighborhood. Like to me, like you have to know people to go over there. Like
Yeah,
if I
no
didn't have
question.
any if I didn't have any business over there, I'm not going there.
Yeah. Yeah. See, but you know what? It's also about comfortability too, because, you know, my parents had me on off of Meringue in Houston Whittier area. Denby was like 5 blocks from my house. But I was so comfortable there. I could walk the streets, every single block over there. I knew everybody over there. My brother, me and my brother walked around there. We were pretty much between maybe it was four other brothers, I should say. Four brothers lived white kids lived down the street from us. We lived down the street from the Currys, Johnny Curry
Mm.
and them. And there was only four other white boys in that neighborhood besides me and my brother. So we all knew each other, but you know, we knew where we were at. We knew how to react. We knew, you know, but we were friends with everybody over there too. But if some drama popped off, you know, we knew where to go. We knew how to be. We knew how to act. We knew what house to go to. If we couldn't go to our house, we could go to this house. I mean, you get on the West Side by yourself. You
Hmm.
don't know nobody. You better have a tour guide, because
Yeah,
you know what I mean. You could walk in the fish spot over there, a jerk chicken spot over there, and like some shit go down, and you're just like, you don't have a clue what to do. You know.
yeah. I say
So
the worst spots to be at is at the gas station. Like pump your
right.
gas and drive off. You know
Oh,
what I
my
mean?
boy, I see my boy Motown in here. He said White Hill. Yeah, that's the street I grew up on, White Hill. Yeah, Motown was over there in our neighborhood too. So, yeah, I mean, but you know what though, the the dope thing about I think the dope thing about being from Detroit is in the entertainment business is being a rapper. Like it's just because there's so many different styles. Like it's crazy. Like you got my style, and then you got like Eminem's crazy style. I mean, which basically was, I mean, the rap scene in the '90s was very syllabic. Like it was like, everybody was spitting syllables. Like everybody was trying to top who could rap the most syllables in one sentence, right? So you had like me, M, Elzai, everybody was trying to do that. But then the flip side to that, you got, East Side Cheddar Boys, you got Rock Bottom, you got Big Herc in them, like you got Street Lords, like that whole street rap side, that Blade came from, and So that side was totally different. And it was in the 90s also. So it was different than the side that my whole group of friends came from. So I thought that was dope. It wasn't just like one style. Like, it's crazy when you look at genres of rap, it just says East Coast hip hop. But when you think
Hmm.
of East Coast hip hop, you think of East Coast, like you really think of, they all sound not sound the same, but they're a style. So you got like the KRS ones, you got the Big Daddy Kane's, you got the J's. That's East Coast hip hop. But when it comes to Midwest hip hop, it's so much different stuff. I mean, you got the horrorcore stuff that Esham started, and ICP and Twisted, and and then it's and then you got Bone Thugs and Harmony in Cleveland. You know what I mean? So there's so much different. That's why I like where we're from. Like not just Detroit, but just that whole strip of the Midwest. Because we grab everything. We grab the East Coast sound. We grab the down south stuff. We grab stuff from the West Coast. And we kind of just made it our own, and just everybody kind of gravitated what they like, and then took in what they could take from it, and then spit back out something that they made their own. Dope.
Absolutely, because for example, like in a major way by E40 is one of my favorite albums. But if you ask like if you ask most people from New York about E40, they'd be like they don't like the way he sound. They consider it whack. But that's the great thing about being from the Midwest, is that you can hear some things in other artists that people on other coasts can't, just because of preconceived notions on what they think being dead nice is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. The only thing that I think that Detroit was hindered by is that a lot of, I would say most rappers don't want to work with other rappers like that, like on like in like the big aspect of it, like video wise. Like, I was just talking about this with my group partner, Uncle Ill, and we were talking about this yesterday, that, when you watch them old New York videos, any rap videos from New York, man, everybody was in them videos, and it was all love. They were all there to support and show love and whatever. Now it's like you ask a rapper to show up, you lucky if you get, you ask 10, you lucky if you get one or two, just to show up and support. Not thinking that, they might need you to come to their spot, and support. And Detroit has always been, supportive of each other, always. But there's still like that little percent that, they don't go that extra mile. They still like a little hesitant to partner up with somebody. I don't know what that's about, but I've been able to navigate throughout my whole career, working with everybody and being cool with pretty much everybody.
And the great thing about being in each other's videos, that's part of networking. Like,
Yeah,
you never know what could come from, being uh you never know what can come of it. Like, you may come across somebody that has a skill that you don't have, but they have, and you can collaborate.
yeah,
Whether it's art, whether it's fashion, whether it's something musical, whatever it is, that's a resource that you can, take advantage of. It's like buying insurance. Like, you may never know when you may have to, take advantage of it, but it's nice to know that you can use it whenever you need it.
yeah. And having that relationship, that's what networking is really all about. I mean, having great relationships with people that you can say, hey man, we're doing this like video. It's basically just like a big posse video. We getting everybody together, and it's just like the little rowdy scene or whatever. But we're gonna make sure you get your love. Whatever it may be. I'll show up to yours, and or whatever. When we do the description, we'll put the feature and who's in it. All that kind of stuff. We'll tag you in, and all that stuff, so that people see that you're still out here working. And people don't understand. A lot of people don't understand how the algorithms work either. You know, that it's like they don't want to help support somebody else that they don't even know that that branch is, you know, it's out there sprawled out. That if they just cling on and hold on to that branch, you know, they get promoted too. You know, it brings them into that circle of that algorithm, and people will start clicking on their stuff as well. You know, and I'm learning a little bit more and more as I go through this process of, you know, this rollout of this new album that Bobby and I have, 718-2313. I'm learning a lot about the rollout and how that works, as far as, you know, how the algorithms work, and how to link this to this, and make sure you use this before you link to this and do that. You know what I mean? It's a constantly evolving class about social media and how that stuff works. But the end result is, how does it work for not just yourself, but anybody that's in your camp that's related to you. So if you're friends with whoever, and they need to understand that, you know, hey, you never know, just liking somebody's post, or, you know, making a comment might open up a lot of doors for you that you don't even see, because it's, you know, it's all behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah, and I can't tell you how many times uh, I've come across your page, for example, and I saw you talking to Bobby J. I immediately followed Bobby J because I wanted to know more about the upcoming project. And then once I started going to the YouTube links, I started, going through binges of listening to the singles, and and now, like, I'm more interested than ever to hear before a project,
Yeah.
and that's like the best case scenario.
Yeah, and
You
that's
know,
how it works. And you're doing exactly what, you know, we everybody hopes that the avid listener, or, you know, an average fan, or someone that's in the media, or, you know, in the business, that's the end result that every artist is looking for. Did I reach the person that is going to be interested in my work, in my, you know, in my project? So by you doing that, by you seeing what I was doing, and Bobby's linked to me, now you see Bobby, now you're also going to check out what Bobby's got going on solo wise, you know, because then if you become a fan of both of us as a group, and you might hear a verse, Bobby's, like, you might have heard Bobby's verse on People and be like, man, this dude can spit. Let me see what else he's got. Maybe he's got some solo stuff. And then you go to that page, and then, you know, somebody that's linked to Bobby J, like this producer named Neff, who happens to be DJ Premier's engineer. Neff is doing beats. So Bobby's spitting over a Neff beat. You're like, yo, so then it just all, you know what I mean? It all clicks down, you know, and that's the beauty of it, man. That's how it works.
and and what I really love about Monsters in Your Head is it's like the lyrical content. It addresses so much of what is happening now,
Yeah.
and especially like the uh, uh, rhymes about government and the way that the country is meant to. It doesn't govern as much as it dominates over a ruling class. Like that really touched me because uh, just as somebody, not only as somebody from Detroit, but just as a black man, I see that and experience that a lot. So that really hit me in the heart. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. And it's, yeah, Monsters Are Due on Maple Street. That's the name of the track. That was a name Bobby came and hit me with, and he was like, "Yo," he's like, "It's crazy," and I was like, "Damn, that's a crazy title. What is that? You know, where'd you get that from?" And he said, "It's actually the title of an episode on Twilight Zone, the TV
Hmm.
show." And this was back in the 50s. The Twilight Zone with Rod Serling, and when I was growing up, I used to watch Twilight Zone, and so I remember that series. So I went back and actually watched that episode, and it was crazy. And it was kind of like, you know, it was it's not. I mean, it's science fiction and whatever, but it's almost like something came down from above to overpower these people. So it made sense. And then the flip side to that is, my father was a Detroit police officer. And I always heard great things about my father from my friends, like they would get pulled over sometimes, or they would be around, like, in the mischief, in the neighborhood or whatever. My father be walking a beat or whatever. And they was like, they always just say like, your dad is like one of the greatest, man. Like he let me go. He treated me with respect. He was always cool. My dad always prided himself on that. But myself and my brother got into so much trouble in the neighborhood off 7 Mile that like, in that whole area, like we would be, chased by cops or whoever. And my dad actually worked the precinct in our neighborhood, the 9th precinct. And his friends would be the ones that would catch us. But when they'd catch me and my boys, I had instances where they whooped my ass. And not only that, but then there was the flip side to that, where some of the cops would tell me or my brother, like, get out of here, and keep my black friends and then rough them up. Like, just tell me, get out of here. Either they told me to get out of there because they knew I was Mike Carlisle's kid, or they just told me because they were white. And they like, let's let the white kid go, and then let's beat up the black kids. So I had a whole different relationship with that growing up. I mean, I eventually ended up myself in prison for a couple years when I was 19, and that's a whole different story than what goes on in the streets. It's crazier. It's insanity. It's something out of a book, a movie. Sometimes I just didn't even think it was real. What I saw and what was happening, but addressing injustice and what was going on at that time, you got to remember, like, when we put that song out, this was when all the protests were going on, and then COVID had just hit. So, we just came out of those protests, the big ones, in like, I think like the September, October, the year before, in 19. And then, in early 20, we get hit with that, the pandemic. So Bobby was addressing that, like wearing the N95s, it was just man, I'll tell you what, writing that, it kind of like took me back, because when I first started writing, when I first started rapping, all the stuff I wrote was anti-government stuff. And if you look in my catalog of stuff, there's a song called Die For Me that I wrote when I was on Geffen. It actually was on my Bulletproof album. And Die For Me was same thing. It was basically about President Bush and everything, and asking him, like, would you die for me? Like, you want people to die for you, but are you willing to, put your own kid out there, or put your family out there and stand in front of a crowd and take the bullet for us? It's so easy for them to make those adjustments in life as president and vice presidents, and, and sit on Congress and dictate the rules of the general public and what the general public needs to do. It's easy for them to sit behind a desk and sit in those big brown leather chairs and tell the public what they, ask from them, ask people to, give their life, or to trust in them, that they're going to for them to take care of us. And we've seen time and time again that the system has failed everybody. It hasn't just failed black people. It's failed women.
Yeah.
It's failed women, it's failed children, So, minorities, obviously, yes, but there's other issues that, I mean, we're in a world where 2022 and a woman can't make the exact same as a man. You think about stuff like that, and it's crazy. And then you see how, how certain criminal activities are sentenced, and given light sentences, because the jails are so packed with bullshit. You know, I mean, they are starting to release people for dumb, misdemeanors and stuff like that. That they've got somebody doing a year jail's time for something that drug related. That's a nonviolent offense. I mean, my friend Rick, he spent 33 years of his life as went in as a juvenile, now 33 years later he's out, but actually 35 years later because he had to do a couple more years in Florida. But he was 17 and it was a nonviolent drug offense, and he was given life, and he's the only one to do that. Why are we doing that to people? So, when you address the injustices of social, the dynamic of social, issues, there's so much to touch on that, it's hard to actually like hone in on one thing, because there's just so much that, so many things that we've been screwed over on, and continue to be, and just because, like, it's like you get behind Barack Obama and you put him in office and you think like, yeah, this dude's going to do amazing things. And, he did do some great things that first 4 years. I mean, he got rid of people that were, stuck in those mortgages. Look at all that. Those people that were stuck with, $200,000 mortgage that had changed hands 10 times and got to 200,000 when really they only owed like 40,000 or $50,000, but because it changed hands and whatever, now they've, it's up to 200,000. He got rid of all that. So he did some great things the first 4 years, and I voted for him both times. But the last 4 years, that man didn't do nothing. He just like, oh, I got reelected. Now I'm a coast, and then I'm gonna get a high school or a library named after me, and I'm gonna get put in the books, and I'm gonna go chill somewhere. And then, but I can say I opened up the door. Okay, well, that's great. But then you open up the door for what? Because look what came after him. There was no push to continue that. People just like, oh, we got our one, we out. And then we allowed that idiot, the orange-haired idiot, to get in there.
Yeah.
I don't want to get too crazy political, but I just know that all of that stuff inspires, something lyrically that for me is easy to write to, because like I said, being the son of a Detroit police officer and hearing my father like come home and tell me stories and whatever, and also being treated a certain way by Detroit police also. It's like, and watching my friends get treated a certain way, watching, but also growing up off 7 Mile and like a lot of my friends being murdered, it's crazy. Like not just necessarily by police, but just the fact that it's so many things that could have helped prevent so much stuff had the government or somebody put stuff in place. But, there's a bigger Oz behind all this that none of us can really grasp, because we are this small in that world of Oz. The wizard, whoever's behind that curtain, don't get it twisted. They've been there for years, and they ain't gonna be going. I don't think they're gonna be going anywhere anytime in my lifetime.
Yeah. I think like with Trump, there was a greater push to start building coalitions among other oppressed groups, kind of similar to the Black Panther Party in the '60s, where the goal was to get rid of capitalism, because capitalism is the root of exploitation. The higher class, takes the minority share of the proceeds, while the worker bees get a mere pittance of what they earn.
True.
And the only thing is that I just wanted to see it sustained. Like with Occupy Wall Street, that was a movement that lasted maybe 2 years
Two
tops, and
years.
then it
Yep.
fizzled out. You know, in order for any change to be meaningful, it has to be sustained. Like imagine if the civil rights movement, would have lasted, 18 months, and then, Andrew Young and Dr. Martin Luther King just said, you know what, I'm about sick of getting thrown in jail, having dogs sicked on me, you know, but uh, getting sick of being tapped by the FBI. I'm calling it quits.
Yeah, the COINTELPRO, all of that.
Exactly.
So yeah, I mean, I agree. The only way to overcome that is sustainability. But you and I both know that that takes money, and
Hmm.
trying to get people to come out of their pockets when they're already struggling is very hard to do. Um, which should automatically give them the the strength to push back even harder because they don't have it. They
Hmm.
should be joining those groups and they should be pressing on. But I digress, man. That's a whole nother beast.
We could talk about that.
We could talk about
Behind the
that for
scenes.
days, bro. Like
Yeah.
let's talk about some good Detroit hip hop. Hey,
No
speaking
doubt.
of good, speaking of good Detroit hip hop, there's one man I always give it up to. I don't care how old we are, how timeless we are, how whatever we're doing in this game. It's one man and his group partner, Easy B, which were the ground, like, for me growing up, and one of the main reasons that I became a Detroit rapper. And that's DJ Los, and I seen him. He joined in this conversation. So I just want to give it up to DJ Los. That's my guy. I wouldn't even be rapping if it
Salute
wasn't
DJ
for him and his
Los.
group. Yeah, it's my dude.
Yeah. So so when you made episode one, like how well did you learn how to like make bass lines? Like did you do it by metronome or did you just do it by feel?
I quantized everything back then. Everything.
Oh, really?
Yeah, everything. And only because I'm a fan of just that crisp, precise to the dot. I've just always been a fan of that. Um,
Yeah.
and sometimes I think what stopped me from liking the feel of something, right? That doesn't have that isn't to a metronome, or I should say isn't adjusted to the time signature, right? That
Hmm.
somebody's just playing and not adjusting it to that time signature. What I didn't like was the mix, because sometimes a lot of the mixes were so muddied, and the bass, like a bass note that somebody might hit is hitting here at the same time as this kick comes like just shy of it, but that kick also has a bass sound to it as well. So you kind of get that little gap right there adds a little bit of mud to the track. And for me, I like it like that. Like, it has to be crispy. Like, I just like it like I like them both on top of each other. And I make all my beats on the ASR 10. So if people don't know, the ASR 10 is like a full keyboard. Like, it's a sampler in the keyboard by Ensoniq. I learned on the predecessor of that, which was the EPS 16. And then they discontinued that. When I went to go buy an EPS 16, they had discontinued it, and the ASR 10 was the new thing. Um, Everybody's used it. Kanye continues to use it. I know he's used it a lot. I know he was using it for Sunday service, and I know he used it on like every album for like the past. I don't even know how. Like, Timbaland uses ASR 10. Mobb Deep used ASR 10 for a lot of the Infamous albums. So I know RZA did the whole 36 chambers on an ASR 10. So it that keyboard allows you to create your own bass line sometimes. You can filter. The filter system on it is amazing. So you could really filter just like a bass note, and you could stretch it and create almost like a fretless bass without having somebody come in and actually play and give you that note. You could find, like, you could sample just a little bass note and stretch it out and do certain things. So I quickly learned how to do that. And that was always my thing for episode 1, was playing those bass lines out. But the other side of that was I did the old producer trick, which was, I would sample I'd take a sample and sample it twice, but the second one I would filter into the bass line and then just lay it underneath the higher version of that. So the EQ would be this sample would be more treble orientated, and I would take the other one and create a bass line and just tuck it underneath the treble orientated sample. And then when we'd go in, we'd mix it, at least I could use that as the bass line. So, and I was really good at, and I think that was one thing that I wanted to master, was trying to create a bass sound from that made you think like, damn, he really played a bass line underneath that. Where really that's the exact same sample. It's just, like I said, it's shrunk. All the highs are gone off it, and I filtered it into the bass, just took the bass part about it and just tucked it underneath. So, it's an old producer trick. A lot of people do it,
Yeah, but 150 MCs, like I can't listen to that without listening to labels about Jizza.
That was
because
that was my inspiration. You figured it out. Totally. Like, a lot of people don't understand. Like, I try to tell them, like, that's not the first time somebody had ever did that. And I'm a flip you out on this, but growing up on the East Side, we listened to Spice One a lot. He was like everything to us on the East Side. And he had that one song where he did the same thing. Where he was talking about he took all the beers or whatever. And then another one where he took another one and he talked about guns and, and called them and used them all as metaphors. Then I heard labels. And then I was just sitting around one day and I was like, no, how many rappers are there? And then I just started, like, I put them all on the list. I wrote them all out. And I was watching 12 Monkeys movie with Bruce Willis and Brad Pitt. And the very end of the movie, in the credit scene, there was this crazy sample. And I was like, what is that? I grabbed my aux cord, connected the audio in the back, sampled it, played the beat, and then I just started writing. And Proof used to come to my house all the time. He used to sleep at my house because he would be at the studio this was when I was on the West Side. He'd be at the studio down the street, and he'd get out of the studio like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. And rather than go home or wherever he was going to, he would just swing by my house because he knew I was always up making beats. So he would come over and hang out and fall asleep at the crib and until my kid's mother would kick him out the house, and when she came home from work in the morning. And one day I was writing it, and I said, I met a red man at Camp Low named Mike Geronimo. He used to rhyme everywhere. He was always on the go. And Proof was like, he used to live in Champtown, but moved to Slum Village in a city, Motown, that was run by Mike Ilitch. And I was like, what? And he just freestyled that. And he was like, write that down, put that in there. He's like,
wow.
And I put it in there. I put the from bar 4 to bar 8. That's all Proof. The rest of it is mine, but Proof got 4 bars on it. And it was dope because he said he used to live in Champtown, and Champtown was a friend of mine, and we wasn't hanging out like that anymore. So when he said it, Proof knew the deal. So Proof kind of put it together in a clever way. It was dope.
Yeah, God bless Proof. And also, when you was talking about Spice One, I still got my Spice One cassette.
Yeah, man. Yeah, yeah. See, look at that. Yo,
Yo, and this
Spice
is
One
from
was
a West
everything to
Side
us on the
person.
East Side, bro.
For somebody that lives on the West Side, yo, this tape and other tapes of his meant everything to me.
Yeah, yeah. People don't. It's crazy. Like you know what's funny is one day I was in L.A. I had my record deal and I was out there living in lavish in this like beautiful condo and all this stuff. And we go to this club off of Hollywood, and it's like a hip hop night or whatever. And I go to the club, hanging out. We night's over. We walk out, and I walk out, and I walk maybe 4 steps. There's nobody on the sidewalk. There's one dude. I walk past him. I'm like, I get about 4 steps past him. I look at my road manager, and I'm like, man, I swear that was Spice One. He was like, that ain't no Spice One. I turned around. I said, Spice. He said, what's up? I was like, oh my God. Like, bro, I fanned out. Like, I was like, dude, you don't even know what you meant to Detroit, that whole East Side. Like, yo, we played your video on the box all the time. Like, welcome to the ghetto. Jealous got me strapped. I was like, yo,
Murder Show,
Murder
the
Show,
MC8.
man, what Trigger Got No Heart? Like, man, what? But then he got real cool with Detroit, man. A lot of Detroit artists started bringing him and putting him on verses. And he was always here. Him and MC8 during that whole period, 2003, 2004, 2005, they was bringing him here all the time, doing shows. It was crazy. Him and JT, the Bigger Figure, all those guys. Yeah, that was crazy. But yeah, man, yeah, Spice was a big deal, bro. It's crazy. It's funny. I'm glad you said that, man. That's crazy because I tell people that not that many people can relate to that. You know?
Yo, like Spice One, like the way he rapped, like if like if a machine gun was a person, he would be that because he used that Jamaican patois.
Yeah.
And he had
he was a real MC. People don't get that. He was a real MC. When he made all those different metaphorical songs, he was doing his MC thing. And to pass him off as just a gangster rapper is not doing that man justice at all for who he is as a legend. You know, like, you know, for a West Coast artist to be, you know, in that realm of doing West Coast gangster music, but doing it in an MC way, you don't see that much. You either have like the Souls of Mischief, Casual, you know, Far Side, you know, and the only person
Hieroglyphics.
The only person really towed a line between both was Exhibit to me, because he came, you know, with the Alcoholics, two of them are from the Midwest anyway. They're not really.
Exhibit was born in Detroit.
Yeah, and Exhibit was born in Detroit. So it's like he was the only one, but Spice One being a legitimate Bay Area rapper, you know, coming from that scene. But I mean, it can't be that far-fetched, because when you look at who the Bay produced, you know, you had the Coup, you know, you besides you got E40 and Short, you know, you also had, you know, Shock, which Shock is from, you know, Queens originally, but you know, you've got him out there, and you know, that whole scene was, you know, a melting pot. It seemed like the Bay was just a melting pot of a lot of different styles and people, you know.
And he came out of a Dangerous Crew, you know, with, you know, Too Short, like and Jive. Oh yeah, and Banks and Jive had a mean roster of Bay Area artists.
Mac Mall, remember Mac Mall?
Yeah, Mac Mall.
Yeah,
Mac
the ghetto
Mall.
I used to do promotion for Mac Mall. I was real cool.
Yo, Mac Mall had the ghetto theme. I remember that was big here.
What was the song he had where he was? I remember the video where he was like in a cemetery or something like that. Like he was about.
He got shot.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that was ghetto theme.
Yeah, that's what that was. Yeah, they used to play that on the box in Detroit constantly. Oh my God.
And then, and it was like that entire period. You had so many cats from the Bay Area that was making it big. E40, Spice One, Balloonies.
Yeah, the
The
Loonies.
Loonies is another one.
Yeah,
Like everything the Bay Area did was what I think is what we aspire to do here. Does that make sense?
that absolutely makes sense. And I was actually going to say that, like the Bay, if you could compare a demographic to Detroit, the Bay is probably the closest to me. I think in relation to how we all are as artists, musically, the Bay seem the same way. A lot of times people like to say Atlanta, but like my boy Motown said, like the Bay is like was like Atlanta is now. They had everybody. A lot of people were. I mean, even Pac came out the Bay. So
Mm-hmm.
you look at Detroit and the different styles that have been produced out of here, especially even to this day now. I mean, you've got your T Grizzly, the Cash Dolls, you got Big Sean, you got the Payroll, Peasy, like that whole sound to me, that whole stuff all sounds the same way that the bass sounded to me in the 90s.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And the production of Ant Banks and E.I. Ski,
Oh yeah.
like those are total stalwarts as far as giving those records that fat bass, with the synths in the Moog synthesizers, doubling the treble. Like I was, I love that sound because it sounded a lot like the funk bands from the Bay Area in the '70s and '80s, like Function. Like in Too Short pioneered that, with his early records.
Yeah, all that open bass on all those
Hmm.
records. Ant Banks was famous for that. All those
Absolutely.
Dangerous Crew records all had that bass sound. And even when Ant Banks was making beats for anybody else, like Spice One and stuff, like it always had that open bass like that. But yeah, man, it's funny because I used to be cool with Mac Mall because I used to do, like I said, I used to do a lot of promotion for him. In the 90s, he'd send me a bunch of his stickers and stuff. I'd go around Detroit sticking up downtown and whatever and helping him out, because he was being managed by Layla Steinberg, and Layla Steinberg and I were cool. She was the one who actually discovered Tupac. Layla Steinberg is actually the reason my name is Hush, because originally it was Hush Puppy, and she was the one that told me, besides some friends of mine who told me you should get rid of Puppy, because Snoop it came out and kind of like messed up my whole what I was gonna do as far as like stage show goes, the whole dog theme, whatever. But then I seen Layla. I was getting ready to change my name because I dropped the Puppy and I was Hush, and I was gonna change my name. And I met Layla at the Gavin convention in Atlanta, and she was down there, and I met her, and she was like Hush. She was like, I love that name. And she told me all about who she was. She had discovered Tupac and all this stuff, and I was major Tupac fan, major. I mean, he still is one of my favorite MCs. Um, and she and I was like, for real? I was like, I'm actually thinking about changing it. Like, I ain't. She was like, you're crazy. She was like, you should keep that name. And I was like, for real? And who am I to argue? This girl discovered Tupac. I was like, yeah, I'm keeping that name, man. So I stuck with Hush, and her and I stayed friends for years. Every once in a while, I'll talk to her every so many years and find out what she's up to and catch up with her. But yeah, yo, I see Bobby J joined. I don't know if he's still in here, but I saw Bobby J's in there.
Shout out to Bobby J.
Yes, sir.
What was you going to change your name to, if
I
you
don't know.
remember?
I don't know. I just remember wanting to change it because I was so mad that Snoop had took everything from my man. This dude continues to take stuff from me. I ain't even gonna go there, but but uh uh I remember seeing him on the MTV Music Awards, and he came out on stage, and he came out of a doghouse. I was on my list. I watched Daz and Corrupt like throw dog biscuits to the crowd. I was like, there's another one. He had dog biscuit, dog bones or whatever for earrings. That was on my list. And I was just like, he had the big dog bone for the chain. It was on my list. And I'm like, oh man, I gotta just, I can't do nothing with it. So, I don't know, man. But, nowadays cats can just go on internet and like type in rap name, new rap name. There's like a rap name generator. People can, we had to, back then we had to really think and ponder about, what we were going to call ourselves. And sometimes, we would try to, we thought we were being slick and being hip hop and being all, with the names of, Third Eye and, all those kind of crazy names. But yeah, I was just like, well, I really don't know about anybody else named Hush. And then my boy said it best. He was like, well, you're a loudmouth. So it's kind of ironic. So kind of like, you can market that a lot. So I kept it, man. It stuck. And to this day, I mean, there's other people who have called themselves Hush, but I own the name. And there is a group that calls themselves the Hush Sound, and they're in Sweden. But whenever they perform or release anything in the States, they have to go by the Hush Sound, and they're able to be called Hush in Sweden. But if I go to Sweden, I have to change my name to MC Hush. So that's like that was the contract. That's the deal between me and that group. So, but United States, man, I'm Hush.
Yeah, I wish one of my favorite songs of yours is called Knuckle Up from
Yes,
back in
sir.
the day. And I always wondered how come you didn't do more music with Royce?
Good question. I mean, I gave Royce a beat. I think he charged me like 1,500 or something back then. We were all taking care of each other like that. And I sent him the beat, and I'd say maybe 15 minutes before he came to the studio, I changed the beat. I was like, man, I ain't doing this. I don't like this beat. And I was trying to write to it, and I couldn't write to it. And it's something that I made, but not every beat I make is for myself. It might sound good with somebody else. So I made a whole nother beat, and then Roy showed up, walked in the door, and he was like, what you thinking? What you thinking for a hook? I was like, I ain't got a hook. And he's like, all right, we'll just work it out. So he starts writing. I started writing, and we laid our verses down, and he's like, I got a hook. And so he did the hook for Knuckle Up, and I was like, dope. And then then he kind of went on his merry way. And after that, he had a deal. What was the deal? Well, he was working with Dre, and they were working on the 2001 Chronic 2001. And so he was out in LA, and then he was also associated with the Neptunes. So I'm almost positive he did a whole album with the Neptunes. But then as all rappers, we change our phone numbers constantly, we change our emails constantly, and the only way that we catch up is if we see each other in spots. Well, Royce really wasn't showing up in spots like that. He was out in New York working with, everybody, so he was working with Trackmasters. He was working with Neptunes, and then he was out in LA working with Dre. And then, so we didn't really cross paths like that. Until, I don't know. We never really, every time I would ask, I'm thinking about getting, Royce on this beat or whatever. Like he was backlogged with verses for people, or he was just busy. But it was always love between him and I, no matter what. Like I opened up for Bad Meets Evil, record release party. That wasn't the last time I seen him, but that was the last time like we ever did anything together. was me opening up for that record release party. And then we stayed in touch. We've always stayed in touch through text message. You know, like Book of Ryan came out, and I told him like he's probably gonna win a Grammy for that album. And I called the single. And he was like, "What you thinking?" And I was like, "Cocaine is the single. Cocaine is the one. You should shoot a video for that. It's amazing." You know, and then he ended up doing Cocaine, not because of me, but you know that just happened to be on the docket for what was coming out. But we've always stayed in touch. I'll salute him, once in a while, and salute what you're doing, and even if it was like with Slaughterhouse, considering all things that's going on now, But even when Slaughterhouse was at its peak, I'd text him, "Yo, I love this joint," or yo, you doing your thing, keep up the good work. It's all love over here. And he, he'll send me back like a crown or prayer hands, or tell me like, "Thanks, Brody." Good dude, man. He's a real good dude.
How did how did the concert that led to you meeting Royce in the first place happen? Because like when you think of hip hop, you don't think of Usher immediately.
So the owner and I knew the owner of the club, and I came in there and told him, "Hey, let me throw a hip hop night here." And he was like, "Well, what are you thinking?" And I was like, "Look, I can get everybody local, like that's all my people." And he was like, "Well, that's good and all, but that ain't gonna make us no money because local people don't pay, and local people don't they don't draw anybody because you're still independent, you still ain't got no fans like that, whatever, and you can have 60 people in a place, but if they ain't paying a cover charge, to get in, that's at least $7 and drinking, then how you going to make money?" And I was like, "All right, well, what else you want to do?" He's like, "Well, let's bring somebody. I'll put up the money. Just tell me who you think I should bring." Well, I said, "Let's bring Usher." And he was like, "Who's Usher?" And this was like, Usher was, I think he only had one album out at that time. This was like the second album, I think. This was the album that Jermaine Dupri had created and started working with him.
Was it My Way?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which was the big hit. And it's funny because even everybody was rapping on that beat.
I think You Make Me Wanna was on that album.
Yeah. So I said, as long as like I can pick the openers. And he's like, "All right." So we got in touch with the people that he was booking shows through and booking artists through. And I went to who did I go? I forget who it was, because it wasn't Royce directly. It was somebody that was I think it might have been this dude Doc Seuss, who was affiliated with Royce's group at the time, Black Wall Street. And I said I wanted them to open up with my group, the Ruckus. So cool, made it happen. And I brought and Eminem and I were close at the time, so I brought Eminem to the show with me, and then to see the Ruckus open up, and maybe who knows, maybe he'd meet Usher. You know what I mean? We didn't know how, Usher is a big star at that time, so we were hoping to at least meet the kid. But then Royce got on stage, and I had done my thing. Then Royce got on stage, or the other way around. I forget whichever way it was. Em and I were sitting in the back of the room, standing there just kind of like watching the show. And the place was packed with kids. Packed. I mean, it was damn near sold out. And Royce is on stage spitting bars. And we're trying to like listen in like we always do, like trying to like listen to hear the bars and here's what somebody's saying, see how ill he is, and nobody had really heard Royce at this time. And so this was like 98, 99. And so nobody really had knew who he was or anything like that. We knew about his group Black Wall Street because they were like 40 deep. It was crazy. Trey Little was in that group. Royce, Doc Seuss, and a few other people that I don't remember right now, but back then I knew who they were. And Em and I are in the back with us listening. And Royce said one line, and he said, "I'm iller than standing in front of a gorilla holding a banana." And it was just something about that. We just looked at each other like, oh, like we were just like, because nobody really was like, we were rapping like that. Em and I were rapping like that. I knew Elzai was rapping like that. But then you finally see somebody that you know is from where you're from, that you don't know nothing about them, and they fit into who we are, as lyricists. You just give it up immediately, like, that dude's ill. Like, who is that dude? Like, yo. And I remember M asking, like, who is that? And I said, that's Royce the 5'9". He's like, why'd you call him 5'9"? I said, because he's 5'9". Like, he was like, oh, he's like, I'm a dummy. And I was like, yeah, you are. But so he was like, yo, I gotta meet that dude. And I was like, yeah, man. Like, after he gets off, like, I'll introduce you. And it's funny because I remember running into Royce and we were talking about that night after Tabernacle came out, which kind of like told the story of actually how he met M, and it was the night that he opened up for Usher. Well, that I played a part in that, but it was funny me telling him that story, because I told him, I said, do you remember that you also took your shirt off in front of all those kids, like trying to flex? He was trying to flex on all these little girls that were like 14, 13 years old, like doing the LL. He thought he was LL back then for sure. It was funny. And he was like, oh, I forgot about that. He's like, man, he goes, who did I think I was? And I was like, yeah, you thought you were LL Cool J. It was so funny. But yeah, then Royce came over, and I was like, Royce is M, and it's funny because Paul Rosenberger came to the show that night also, to kind of just meet M and hang out with M and try to hang out with him as much as possible, because he was kind of courting him to try to become an artist under his management wing, because Paul had just came back after becoming a lawyer in the entertainment business, and came from New York and was looking for artists. And DJ Head had told him, there's this white kid here, Eminem, you need to really pay attention to him. He's dope, whatever. And so he had came to the Usher show that night to meet M and, introduce them. And I was just telling somebody this story. It's funny that we brought this up, because that night M had like went to the bathroom or something, and he was like, hush, you think I should sign M? You think he's dope? And I was like, you'd be a dummy not to sign that dude. Like, we all know that dude is out of here. Like, there was just something very special about Eminem around us. We all saw it. We all knew that kid had something that was different than all of us. Like, he wanted it more than we did. And we all wanted it bad. But the way he crafted his rhymes, and the way he paid attention to what he wrote, and what he did, shifting gears from, Eminem and Infinite to making that transition to Slim Shady. And then, because the EP was out at that time, the Slim Shady EP. So, we had saw that transition from Infinite to the EP, and how he had went into this character, and the character was just, that's when it really came out. So we all knew he was out of here. So I told Paul, like, man, yeah, you'd be a dummy not to get this guy. He's worth it. So you think so? And I was like, absolutely. And he had actually asked my boy, the one I talked about earlier, DL Jones, asked him too, like, DL, you think I should sign him? And DL was like, yeah, you'd be stupid not to, But then they left that night. Royce and M either met up that night or the next night. Actually, I think it was the next night, because his baby was born that night and his grandmother passed away that night in the same hospital. And the next day, I believe it was, they recorded the first Bad Meets Evil. And if you go on YouTube and just type in Eminem Royce Bad Meets Evil demo, it's totally different than the one that ended up on the Slim Shady LP. But that's the version that they did, and it was produced by Doc Seuss, who was in Black Wall Street.
Is that the? I think I heard it. It has like a RZA quality to it.
Yeah, it's got like horses and stuff on it, like horse noises and stuff. Arsonist, blocking your fire hose where the nozzle is. Go to hospital, something and test positive. Like, yeah, that whole thing. And if you listen to it, here's a Easter egg for you. You're gonna love this. If you listen to it after you get off this live with me, go and listen to it.
Okay.
The very beginning of that song, he says, "Hi, my name is," and you hear Royce go, "Royce," and he goes, my name is Slim Shady, Slim Shady." That became, eventually they took that. Dre heard that, and then they took that and used it. They didn't use the original, but they ended up taking that, and that became "My Name Is" for the hook.
Wow.
So if you listen to it now, you'll hear it. You'll hear him say, "Hi, my name is," he goes, "Royce. My name is, my name is Slim Shady."
So, and when you hear that song, you can hear just how
Raw.
connected they were.
All together, they were raw and in sync, man. That song is the original is my favorite. I like the original because I actually have a copy of the original that M gave me, and I haven't heard it in a while because I know that somebody ripped it and put it up on YouTube. But I just know where I was when I first heard it, and I have these conversations with Bobby J a lot, because I have a lot of footage. I've got a freestyle of M just in my basement, freestyling just off the top of the head with Drunk Bob, which was turned to be Cheddar Bob, who's a good friend of mine, who was actually my DJ and introduced me to the scene in '93. Um, I've got freestyles. I've got video footage. So when I hear those moments, like I connect with that uh, in a way that's just uh, like a proud friend moment. You know what I mean? Like just knowing where it started from to where that man has become now. Like I forget where my boy Valid. I was out to dinner with him the other night, and Valid said to me, "Man, what does that feel like? Like to know that you were best friends and hung out with this guy all the time. You had children. You had, your firstborns 2 weeks apart. You both were homeless, sleeping on different couches and all that stuff. To now, this guy is the biggest selling artist of all time and is the icon." And I said, honestly, this is like it's. I don't even think about that. Like I still think of I still have that, the proud moment of, being a part of that. That's where I really, I feel close to them, just being a part of that, opening up for him at the Slim Shady EP release party, having him show up at my house after he had just came back from being with Dre and doing Still Don't Give a Fuck, Role Model, and My Name Is. Having him show up at my house first before anybody. And quite honestly, I was the first artist that he asked to sign to Shady Records. And I turned it down.
Wow.
Yeah, I turned it down. Because I was in the ruckus and we had record deals on the table at the time. But then all the companies we had record deals with, they had all lost their distribution.
What the hell?
Sorry, man. My dumbass son kicked me off live.
Oh, oh, no problem.
But what
Yeah,
I
I
was
was.
saying is like, yeah, so he had got a distribution deal from Interscope, and he came to me and was like, I want to sign you as a solo artist. And I was like, well, I got this group thing going on. I got record deals on the table. I'd rather do it with my group partner before I go solo. And he was like, all right, well, let me know what's up. So I went back to my group partner, and he was like, what you want to do? And I was like, well, let's see what happens. Let's see what happens with the group. And then, we lost all the distribution deals. So when they lost all their distribution deals, because we had deal on the table with Rough House Columbia. We had a deal on Shaquille O'Neal had a record label called Twism. So we had a deal on the table with him. We had a deal on the table with this other company called Rawshack. And so that just, when those went away, I went back to M, and M was like, man, like it was like a month later. He was like, man, I wish I'd have known, like I signed D12. And I was like, good for them. Like I was excited for them too. But he was only going to sign one of us because he knew, it was going to be a project. So, he got D12 and got a letter of intent with them. So, but I was salute to them, man. Those guys, they did exactly what they set out to do. Go platinum. They sold 8 million records, 10 million probably at this point, and I'm still good friends with them.
Like Shaq had a mean run, with the World
Bro,
Is Mine.
#1
Yo,
records.
yeah,
He did a record with
like
Biggie.
yeah, the Rain.
Yeah, it don't stop the rain.
Yeah,
That song was fire.
yo, he recorded with the Fushnikins. He recorded with
RZA.
DJ Quick.
Yeah, he did a lot of good stuff.
Do, um, do you think like now that Eminem has come up, he's eligible for induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? What do you what do you make of that possible? Well, it to me, I feel like it's a slam dunk that he will be enshrined. But what do you make of where where you saw him come from to where he is now?
Um, I think he deserves it based on a lot of things. Um, I mean, record sales tell a lot. Obviously, we all know. I mean, we don't even have to say anything, and we know Drake's going to get in there one day. Just off of record sales, that man's done a lot. And record sales are telling. You know what I mean? I mean, we're talking about. This is a kid who sold millions and millions of records pre-streaming, right?
Hmm.
So he had a good 5-year run before streams hit.
SoundScan.
Yeah, so he had, he was sound scanning crazy numbers. He #1 record, right out the gate, every time. So that's automatically a factor. Then you factor in, what was his impact in the game. And we all know how many rappers came up underneath him that came up behind him, not affiliated, but inspired by. Regardless of what they may say now, you've got rappers like The Game who, when he first came out, was like, Eminem is my biggest inspiration. He's the greatest and all this stuff. And now, this guy's like saying what he's saying, he could take him in the verses, whatever. Like, yeah, good luck. But you've got that. But then to know that, he's always stayed true to himself through everything, even when he was, through whatever it may be. He stuck to his guns, and it's crazy to me, but people, some people still backed him up when they were even a target. They would defend him, So he has this element of charisma, in the game that, he's been able to, finesse and impress people with his ability, his talent, because he doesn't have anything other than that. And that's all he can use is what he has, and that ability to write and his ability to use the English language and dictionary and be able to use every element of that into, and create this package that's undeniably, like, to me, one of the greatest lyricists of all time, no matter what. I don't necessarily know where to put him in rank, because we all are, it's subjective. We all have our favorites. I mean, there's days that I think Black Thought is better than him, and then there's days I think Coogee Rap is better than him. But it might be just what I'm feeling that day. I just might be feeling Coogee Rap that day. Like, man, like, it might take me to a place that Eminem doesn't take me to, but when I sit there and listen to Role Model, right, and what he did on that track, and knowing and remembering the first time he played it for me over the phone, that moment resonates with me more than just a fan, obviously. But then when I'm not friends with him and I'm not close to the guy and I don't talk to him, because honestly I haven't talked to the guy in 15 years, and a lot of us in Detroit, we don't talk to him because he's just out of here. He's an alien at this point. He's on a whole nother level than all of us. And but going from that and then listening to his verse on Medicine Man, I think that's the name of it.
From
Medicine,
the relapse.
no,
Album?
no, on the Compton album.
Oh yeah.
In the beginning of something when he said, kind of reminds you of the first time you saw Tiger Woods golf, when he says all that. Like, he talks about people and he gives his rundown of, hey, of who he was and how people perceived him, and then he just like obliterates the track. Like, that to me that sums it up for me of why he's deserving of that, because he's able to still keep up that realm of when I first heard Role Model on the phone in 1999 to 2000 and whenever, Compton came out or whatever, or even, now, like, even stuff I hear like the Godzilla track, with Juice World, like when you hear something like that, if you're able to stay consistent in that, I mean, yeah, everybody's going to have their ups and downs in their career and your peaks and valleys. It's just how it goes. But, him and I both turned 50 this year. I mean, when we've started, I didn't think anybody would rap over 30. We thought, 30 was old as a rapper.
I mean, Too Short retired. We quote unquote retired at 30, and he kept rapping.
Yeah, and now here we are, both turning 50 this year. So, and Jay-Z's 52. And so that changed the game too. I mean, I think I honestly believe that rap would not be the way it is age-wise if it wasn't for J and M. To be able, because J and M showed us you can do it at this level. If this is what you want, this is where you want to be at, you can do it at that level. You just have to want to do it at that level. And M is never one to like slack off in his rhymes and just make you think like, just be passive with his rhymes. No, this man is a surgeon. People don't get that. He's technical. He's very, precise in what he's writing. And if you've ever, if you would ever have gotten the chance to watch him write like I have, I mean, the guy writes in little tiny, it's minuscule ant language. You can't even read what he wrote on the paper because it's just words. He doesn't write it on the line like we do. He just writes a word and writes them all over the place. And he did that so that nobody ever bit his rhymes. If anybody ever grabbed his paper and they were like, oh, I'm Eminem and I'm here to say that I'm like, nobody would ever be able to do that because it looks like this does. It's a blank piece of page. But to him, it's like it's a it's Rain Man shit.
Yeah.
You
I
know.
kind of look at it like Thelonious Monk's playing, like the way Thelonious Monk didn't want any sheet music. He didn't want people to even see him playing. Like
Yeah,
he.
it's like Christopher Walken not wanting any punctuation on the sheet when he acts.
Hmm.
You know, no commas, no periods, no exclamation points, no semicolons, no nothing. Just give me the line, and I'll say it the way I want to say it. You know, he developed
Yeah.
it and created. You know, he made his own lane. And yes, the syllables were there, the metaphors were there, because Big Daddy Kane taught us about syllables. I think Raw is a big, huge was a big inspiration for me when I was first writing my rhymes, and even like you know just other people like I said, like Coogee Rap and people like that. Um, Juice Crew just had this syllable style that was just crazy. So that it's not like it's never been done before. It was never done at the level that M had done it. And when finally people started listening, like, yo, this kid is out of here. Like this dude is really like, man, is this where we're headed? Because how am I going to keep up? And it made people work that much harder. Especially, I mean, think about this too. There's another aspect not that many people think about. Uh, if you want to, if you try to like look at the package of why this kid is would get into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, especially hip hop related. This is a guy who perfected the diss.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, we had our KRS moments. We had our LL moments. We had our Kumo D moments. We had the little the iced teas and the little fun beefs, right? I mean, the biggest beef for me when I was growing up, besides KRS and Shan, which really that to me wasn't really a battle. I mean, it's a battle in the books, but KRS One I think came out on top of that. But the LL back and forth with Kumo D, because it went back and forth so many times, it kept us wrapped up in what was coming out next. But for M to have so many different ones of everybody trying to get at him, and every time they can't beat this guy.
Yeah.
You can't go against that guy. Like nobody wants it with the white boy. That's what Game said. You know, nobody's gonna go against M like that in a battle. It's just not gonna happen. He knows how to do it. He knows how to perfect that. He knows what to come at you with because he comes from the battle scene, which is the other part of that. Is that who put the battling of that on a stage in front of the whole world? 8
And.
Mile put battling on the map.
Hmm.
We knew it was there. We all did it in our school. We all did it in the cafeteria. We all did it on the playground. We all did it with our homies driving around in the car. We all did it with our homies in the basement. And Detroit put it in a small setting from 2 to 6 on a Saturday, and we did it there. But when M took it and put it in the movies, bro, he put it out there for real. That's another part of it. I mean, this guy brought a lot to the game, man, and to be able to be cultivated and shaped by Dr. Dre, who knew how to work the system in the game. He knew how to go. He knew how to maneuver around controversy because he had come from the most controversial rap group of all time, besides like a 2 Live Crew, who went against the government and battled free speech for us. You know, he comes from he I think him and Dre seen that he was cut from the same cloth, and knew how to make that man who he is, and M knew what to do and how to do it, and you know he deserves it, man. He really does. He deserves it. A lot of people are gonna hate, but I mean, he's a shoe-in, bro. And I'm just excited to see who's going to be the one to actually, induct him. I think it's going to be Dre.
As it
Because
should.
it should be. I think it should be Dre, and I think it should be Dre and Jimmy Iovine. You know,
Yeah.
I remember when
Could
I
that
got
be
my
into?
deal, when I got my
Mhm.
record deal, Jimmy Iovine signed me, and Jimmy said to me, I was sitting in his office. He had a conference room. This guy had pictures. Let me put you in the scene here. I'm sitting in the conference room at Interscope Studios, our Interscope offices, but it's Jimmy's office pretty much. On one wall, Jimmy is in this big, huge picture, big posters, all framed beautifully and everything. And Jimmy is at the Thriller in Manila fight. He's
Mm.
there. Okay. On the other wall is another big picture, and it's all black and white, beautifully framed and everything, black and white photo. And he's standing on the roof with a t-shirt on that says New York City, and he's got his arm wrapped around John Lennon, and John Lennon's
Wow.
wearing the same shirt. Okay, so I'm in between these. I'm in between greatness. I'm looking at Jimmy's with John Lennon. Here he is with Muhammad Ali. You know, um, and then behind Jimmy, Jimmy was sitting in my seat. I'm sitting over there, and I'm looking over Jimmy's shoulder, and Jimmy's got about a 6 foot thin, like 6 foot, maybe like that wide, tall, 6 foot tall film roll. Remember the kind that you go in the photo booth and you get those photo booth pictures? You
Yeah.
get like 4 or 5 pictures, whatever. And I look at the picture and it's M with Jimmy's kids. And
Wow.
Jimmy says to me, Jimmy's looking at me. He doesn't even look at the picture. He goes, "You see that guy right there?" He goes, "That's the only guy I trust with my kids. That guy right there." And
Wow.
I thought that dude really cares about that dude. You know what I mean? That when you get into the business and you don't think that much about how record execs think of you and stuff like that. I I don't think. I mean, Jimmy signed me, but he didn't know me to care about me like that. He had just signed me, but I knew the history that M had provided Interscope and Aftermath with. I knew I'd studied Interscope from inception, from Nine Inch Nails being on it to No Doubt being on it. I watched every aspect of Interscope. I wanted to be signed to Interscope so bad, and I was so jealous that M was on Interscope. And I was like, man, like I'll never get signed to Interscope now. And then he put me on Geffen, which was sister label of Interscope, but he was trying to build the rap side of Geffen. So I was happy and lucky to be a part of, just being on a sister label, but still signed by Jimmy Iovine. But him saying that told me how close they were, and told me how much he cared about M. So yeah, I think that's where I come from when I say that Jimmy should also be there, along with Dre. Maybe they'll both, induct him. Because I know Jimmy looked at M like a kid, like his own son.
Hmm. How did you feel like recording under Geffen? Like, did you feel like there was a lot of pressure on you uh, to make Geffen a major player in hip hop?
Yeah, and it was hard. I'm not gonna lie. It was hard because Geffen was known for like Nirvana, Aerosmith, Black Sabbath. Like, I wasn't. I don't know. Like, um, oh, what's up, Hush? Long time, homie. Just introduced my 11-year-old son to your music. Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that. Um, uh, there was pressure there, and I just felt like my management and I were just like, well, I'm just going to continue to do me, and we'll see where it lands. You know, I was doing a lot of sports related things. I had worked with the Pistons and Fox Sports Net for like 3 years straight, providing theme songs for the Pistons.
That was a
Um,
great run we had.
yeah, that whole run right there, 3, 4, and 5, that was like a great run. Um, and then um, and then I was introduced to Mark Burnett, who had created Celebrity Apprentice or Apprentice and Survivor, and he had this new TV show, The Contender, with Sylvester Stallone and Sugar Ray Leonard, and was looking for a theme song for it and somebody to do sports themes for that show. And so I started working on that and was doing that, and then my song got put into Need for Speed Most Wanted video game. That became a #1 single for that. So there was pressure, but at the same time, I was just like, I looked at who else was on the roster rap wise, and the only people that I saw that could really take Geffen to the next level on the hip hop side, or even just the urban side, was Mary J. Blige and Snoop, and Common as well. Um, the Roots were signed to Geffen, but you know, the Roots is like a niche market. You know, they ain't necessarily, uh, as they're definitely not as big as Snoop or Common. You know, especially because Common was doing a lot of movies, so his audience started to change and get bigger and bigger and bigger as he become a bigger actor. And Snoop is just Uncle Snoop. Everybody knows who he was. And Mary J. Blige is Queen of R&B and hip hop soul. So it's like, you know, she already had a built-in audience, and her as well. She was just getting bigger and bigger and bigger with songs like, No Drama and Family Affair and, you know, those songs. So the other people that were on the label were Talib Kweli and Mos Def. Trying to think who else we had. But we had, you know, I hadn't made my bones yet. So, you know, I was trying to like look at who else was on the label that could take the label to the next level. And I just didn't see myself being that person until maybe a couple albums down the road. But, you know, once you get into the business and you start to see how the marketing and promotion is, and where the money's being spent, and how radio spins are, and if the radio promotion department ain't getting a check from the distributor, then they're not going to go and promote a record on to any radio, you know, for spins and stuff like that. You know, like, you know, I remember trying to take one of my records to radio, and the radio guy was like, "Man, you talk to Jimmy, have him cut the check, and we'll go right to radio." And I go back to Jimmy, and he's like, "Man, I don't know what they're talking about. Like, we'll have to see how it works out, you know." And it's just like, you know, you just start learning the inner workings of the business, and you realize, man, like, I'm up against a machine, you know, and money moves the machine in all aspects, you know. I remember being put into like all the Journeys, the stores in the malls, you know, and having my video play on all the screens and Journeys. You know, I thought that was a big moment for me, you know. But then, you know, then you find out like, you know, well, that's only like a 2-week run, and you're like, 2 weeks, like that's all I got, and I ain't got no radio. Like, we can't do it any longer than that, you know. But I got big looks though, man. I really did. I can't lie. I got some really big looks. I got to go on the entire anger management tour with M from start to finish, the entire tour. And then, Madison Square Garden, and then coming home and opening up for M at Comerica Park with Nate Dogg. I brought Nate Dogg in from Long Beach and threw him a birthday party, and then having him, you know, jump on stage with me the next night in front of 25,000. That was amazing. In the middle of the anger management tour, I got to jump off tour and go on tour with Snoop overseas, and, you know, we did Wembley, you know, 100,000 people, you know. So I have moments, you know. I mean, being opening up for Wembley is like you're just like looking at ants, 100,000 people. They don't even look real, you know. But they were big. They were big looks going to France and everybody in France knowing my lyrics before my record had even came out. Um, I saw somebody here say that they were from UK and they knew me from being, you know, from UK. But I had, you know, doing Manchester, England, doing, and like I said, and doing Wembley. I mean, I had big moments, and it was a great time, you know. But like I said, once you start to see how the machine works and where it unravels, and if the slack isn't picked up in this department and this department crumbles, you know, it all changes, and it all changes your perspective on how things work, you know.
Yes, yes. Like with so much that has to be done in order for demand to be at retail, in order for a label to uh, really get behind the project.
Yeah, it takes a lot, man. It takes a lot, you know. And then you start to watch, you know, you audit your budget, and you start to see where all the money's going, and you know, you're wondering, well, you know, you just start asking the questions that like you used to think about before you even had a record deal. Like, well, why ain't I in MTV? Well, how come I ain't on BET? Well, how come I ain't doing Spring Break? Well, how come I, you know what I mean? You just start asking all those questions, and you know that, and they're like, man, it don't work that way. Like, you know, it don't work that way. I mean, it's kind of whack because, you know, you, like I said, like once you unveil that curtain, you know, you see, you know, sometimes it's better to not know who the wizard is, you know, and just being that innocent to a lot of things, because once you find out about, you know, who's behind the curtain and how it works, it turns you off of the business. You know, I mean, I actually had to ask to get off Geffen because I didn't like their business dealings. I didn't like where my promotional budget wasn't, you know, being, how it was being spent, how much of it, how much the budget was. Um, just so many different things factored into it. And then, you know, and then the more you start asking questions, the more they start shelving you, you know, and they, you know, and you're just like, well, listen, man, like, you know, I want to win. I know you want me to win too. So let's win together. You know, let's do this together. And it's like, no, it's like, we're going to do it our way. And I'm like, well, yeah, but you don't know everything because you're not connected to the streets the way that I'm connected. I know what the streets are saying. Like I'm the first person to walk into the Best Buy regional area, at regional office, and get the entire region, the regional managers all into one building. I threw them all a pizza party, played them my EPK, and told them, listen, I'll provide every single one of your employees in this entire region with a T-shirt on my opening day. And you guys have the chance to back a Detroit artist, a Midwest artist, and really get behind us. Like, you know, there was Nelly, there was, you know, Bone Thugs, there's all these other people from the Midwest, but nobody's really got behind them and, you know, and showed the love on a consumer level. You guys should start doing it. So I was kind of like thinking ahead progressively, and the managers were like, all right, let's do it. Well, we did that. And then I sold out all my product in a half hour, not just in that region, across the United States. All my product was gone in a half hour. Good and bad.
Wow.
Good and bad moment, because now I go back to Universal and there's no product pressed up. So we have to wait 2 weeks for it to finally get pressed up, then go back, shipped out, then hit the stores. Well, I had 2 weeks all by myself. And then by the time we come back and hit the shelves again, when I say I was by myself, I mean there was no other releases hip hop wise coming out. When I finally did land back on the shelves, Kanye West comes out and Tony Yayo drops.
Oh man.
Right. So now all the focus becomes, we got to push Kanye. We got to push Yayo.
Yayo.
And so, and then Hush is third. So now it's just like I'm dead in the water. So now it's just like, all right, well, now we're just Now we're just promoting and pushing and, you know, and doing all that stuff. And now we're just waiting for, to see what's going to happen. And I was hoping they would push out more product, and they did, but I thought the promotion was going to come behind it as well. And they were like, well, we kind of shot ourselves in the foot, man. We spent our promotional budget. So now we just got to wait until the next album in 2 years. And I'm like, 2 years? Like, I ain't got 2 years, bro. Like, I need money. We got to push it. I got to go on tour. I got to do this. I got to get, and they were like, sorry, man, it's all we can do. And I'm like, you expect the product to sell itself? Like, it's not going to sell itself. I have to get out there and do that. And that's what I'm saying. Like, that's the that's the give and take of being on a label and understanding how this industry and business works. So finally, I just asked them, like, hey, let me go, and they took a year and they finally let me go, but they held me for a year. But when I did get released and I went independent, I put a record out independently, and I made way more money on that than I ever did on my major label. So and it was right after downloading and streaming came out. So my album, my second independent album, because Roses and Razor Blades was my first before that led up to me getting my record deal. Then I came out with a major release, Bulletproof. But the third release I had, The Open Book, which I came back independent, sold more, made more money, all benefited from streaming and downloading. Because that was it for me. It was like word of mouth. Like, I was able to tell people online, like, hey, you buy my album this way, blah, blah, blah. I had already had people's emails. So I was able to email blast everybody that I had built up over, the last 5 years. So it actually worked to my advantage.
I think that's the best thing about streaming is that it's direct to consumer, and you can
Absolutely.
mobilize a strategy that will best serve your audience without having to go through the bureaucratic process of going through different departments to coordinate the release of an album.
Yeah, no question. Yeah. I mean, and you're in control, you're in total control of your own destiny. So if you want to make it, well, then you have to promote. And if you want to promote, that means you got to shake hands and kiss babies. If if you're going to shake hands, then you got to shake hands with the people that's going to put you on a stage somewhere, and that it just all, it all works together. And if you've got it all working in unison, it all works to benefit you, and that's what Bobby and I are trying to do with this album. We've got it's a different approach than I normally am used to doing. Bobby's had to show me a few things of how how the game has changed from the way that I used to think about how putting out projects. But it's all worked to the benefit because people's blown up. We get a lot of great response from that.
Do you think we need like another venue for hip hop, like the Hip Hop Shop back in the day, or C Note Lounge or Ebony Showcase in 2022?
It would be nice to think that, but I don't think it could happen. And the only reason I say that is because the people that kept the Hip Hop Shop and C Note and Ebony Showcase alive was a certain brand of hip hop in Detroit. Like I said, like the Street Lords, the Cheddar Boys, Rock Bottom, they wouldn't keep those types of spots open. And I don't think that, I don't think our brand or demographic of hip hop, it's out there, no question. But no one, I think it would take them to do it. You know what I mean? I don't think it would take someone like me, or maybe someone just saying, okay, well, let's just open up a club, or let's just have a hip hop night and promote it and see who shows up. I'm not sure, because it took a good 3 years of building that scene up to get to where it was, to where St. Andrew's 3 Floors of Fun was, this community. It can happen. There's no question. It's going to take a community to build that up. But right now Detroit's having a real big, real big street rap emergence. Like I said, with Payroll and PZ and 42 Dugg and T Grizzly, my son's yelling in the background. So like that type of crowd doesn't necessarily gravitate to hip hop nights. It's more like club nights or bar nights. Where everybody's just in there drinking and having fun or whatever. Whereas like our scene was like we came there to do hip hop, to rap, to break dance, to like have an art show in the next room, to really showcase the culture. And that's not what Detroit's about right now. But I think it can happen.
Yeah, I think I think the future, like I think with live music, because I think, like you said, it couldn't be done the same way as it was in the '90s. But I think with the power of live music, like what you're doing, with this project and what Will Sessions did with Elzai, I think there's people that might. I think live music, when you have a band and you have like MCs and the DJ, performing, I could see that kind of being the draw for venues, to start, start that kind of energy again.
Yeah, it could happen.
Yeah.
I got to get out of here, homie.
Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. And
anytime,
man. I can't wait for the album to come out. And again, thank you for your time. You are a legend to me, and being from Detroit, I take pride in your contributions to our music scene and for helping to spread our culture to the world.
Thank you, man. I definitely appreciate that. And Bobby and I just, we made a dope album, with a bunch of New York MCs, and I grabbed all my legend friends. Guilty Simpson, Marv One, Quest McCody's on the album, DJ Los, Don Q's on the album, Paradigms on the album, so I grabbed a lot of, greats, just so that I could, we could show the world, what, where Detroit is, that we're still out here, and doing it at the level we're doing it. So, and it's for you guys, man. So, thank you for having me on here, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you again. And, we got to do it again. Like
we will.
Just like
when the album drops in June, we'll do it.
Absolutely. I'm there.
Okay, bro. I'll talk to you later.
All right, my guy.
Peace.
Peace.